Hello, beautiful people. Today is an exciting day because after popular demand, it seemed like you guys definitely wanted to do a book read. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to dive into Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I am so excited to get into this. And I just decided, and hopefully we don't get flagged for this, but I'm going to just go ahead and use the original audio because I was telling you guys you want to listen to the Audible. So we're going to just do this every day and try to like get these hashed out. I'm going to break each chapter into two. And it's just going to be an exciting time. I cannot wait to get to it. I'm at least going to read you guys the forward, just to kind of get an intro into it, and then let the narrator, who does an amazing job, really just read the book. I actually have it so that I can follow along with you guys, and we can all read this book together and enjoy this. Because, like I said, this book was life changing. I definitely want to do like an analysis after and talk about it, but I don't want to make the videos too long. So, but this way, hopefully it won't get flagged. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right in. Let me just go ahead and share my screen here. And we're going to get right into reading the book. All right. So hopefully you guys can all see that. That is the actual cover of the book. And the PDF is available online. It's for free. It's in the public libraries, so you guys can always get it there. Just real quick, fear is the tool of a man-made devil. Self-confident faith in one's self is both the man-made weapon which defeats this devil and the man-made tool which builds a triumphant life. And it is more than that. It is a link to the irresistible forces of the universe which stand behind a man who does not believe in failure, defeat as being anything but temporary experiences. This is direct from Napoleon Hill. So there's actually a picture of him. I'll show you guys really quick. Let's see. There it goes. These are all chapters. There he is right there. That's a young Napoleon Hill. Keep in mind, this book was actually written, and I'm going to go into this right away, after Think and Grow Rich, and all of the stuff and the struggles that he went through. So even after his initial success, which actually his first book was called The 16 Laws of Success, and then they had to rewrite it out and gave a watered down version of the book, and that became Think and Grow Rich, which was the #1 bestseller. But he was having all kind of problems, death threats, and all kind of things going on. So after that, he was really compelled to write this book, Outwitting the Devil, because of his own struggles. So I cannot wait to tell you guys and get all into this and really listen to it, because I mean, this book is very life transforming. So let's go ahead and get down here to the note to readers. Now, keep in mind, Sharon Leckler, she works with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. She's going to talk about herself right here also too, where she actually was helping to publish this book. So she does throughout the book give her notes and her first encounters of the book also too. So you'll be hearing her also talk. So we'll talk about that too. So this is just her note to the readers. So Outwitting the Devil is the most profound book I have ever read. First, I was incredibly honored when Don Green, CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, trusted me enough to ask me to become involved in this project. And then I read the manuscript. I couldn't sleep for a week. Written on a manual typewriter in 1938 by the master himself, Napoleon Hill, this manuscript has been locked away and hidden by Hill's family for 72 years. Why? Because they were frightened by the response it would invoke. Napoleon's courage in revealing the devil's work around each of us every day, in our churches, our schools, and our politics, threatened the very core of society as it was known at the time. When asked why the family has hidden the manuscript, Don Green recites the following inside story. This is where it gets good, you guys, right? So it was the objections of Hill's wife, Napoleon Hill's wife, Annie Lou. She was a secretary to Dr. William Polar Jacobs, president of the Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina. Jacobs was also owner of Jacobs Press and public counselor to a group of South Carolina textile firms. Jacobs hired Hill to come to Clinton to work for him. And Annie Lou did not want the book published because of the role of the devil. She feared the response from organized religions and maybe for Hill's job. Even though Hill had died in 1970, Annie Lou did not die until 1984. And upon Annie Lou's death, the manuscript came into the possession of Dr. Charlie Johnson, then the president of Napoleon Hill Foundation. Charlie was the nephew of Annie Lou Hill, and Charlie's wife, Frankie, knew and shared Annie Lou's feelings. So Frankie told Charlie that she did not want the article published while she was alive either. And Charlie's wife passed away a couple years ago, and then Charlie finally gave Don the manuscript, right? Bound in red leather, embossed with letters, Outwitting the Devil, gold on the cover. The foundation believes that the manuscript has a powerful message that needs to be shared. And after speaking with Don, they were overcome with a power of realization that this book, even though written in 1938, was actually meant to be published today. And you guys will see that, right? So meant to rock our society today. It was intended to provide answers during the uncertain economic and spiritual time. It provides the key for each of us to outwit the devil in our own lives. It shows us to chart our course for success and to add value to the world around us through this process. Just like Think and Grow Rich helped us recover and succeed after the Great Depression, Outwitting the Devil was written to help each of us recover and succeed today. You may ask if Hill believes his conversation with the devil was real, or was it merely his imagination? And this choice is always yours. But I ask you, and I think Sharon is asking you too. Don Green's, what he thinks about, his thoughts about this is that the writings to see if we could get another look inside, Hill's head. And Don's response was as follows. The use of imaginary conversation was not new to Hill. In 1953, Hill published How to Raise Your Own Salary. That's another really good book, you guys, if you want to go pick it up. And this was written as a conversation between Hill and Carnegie. And Hill had interviewed Carnegie in 1908, but Carnegie died in 1919, well before its publication. Right. So this is not the first time that Hill used his imaginary meetings to convey what he was writing about. In the Think and Grow Rich writing about the sixth sense, he wrote about his imaginary council meeting with the 9 men whose life works had been the most impressive to Hill. These 9 imaginary council members were Emerson, Paine, Edison, Darwin, Lincoln, Burbank, Napoleon, Ford, and Carnegie. Carnegie wrote in Think and Grow Rich that during his meetings with his invisible counselors, he found his mind most receptive to ideas, thoughts, and knowledge that reached him during these times when his sixth sense was activated. Outwitting the Devil was by no means his first time to write about religion. In fact, after he published The Law of Success in 1928, he received letters of criticism about the stance of schools and religion. And in Think and Grow Rich, in the chapter entitled The Sixth Ghost of Fear, Hill wrote that fear of death in the majority of cases could be charged to religious fascism. And Hill has much to say about religious leaders in the section of his classic bestseller. Hill had much to say about religion, even in his Hill's Golden Rule magazine. He wrote an article and suggestion of ministers of the gospel in which he abolished church leaders to teach the followers to practice harmony among each other. And so the choice is yours. Did Hill actually talk to the devil, or is this a parable created to reach out and touch your heart? Hill's unique style will pull you in and move you in ways you've never thought possible. The words in this book are Hill's own. And since the original manuscript was quite lengthy, it was edited down with careful precision to precise and profound impact of his message. Sharon actually kept this in its original language in place, even when modern grammar may have been dictated adjustments. And in an effort to highlight certain issues, bring clarity to his words, that shows his predictions have become realities. And she's also added thoughts throughout the manuscript in a different type of style. This allows you as the reader to choose the book either with her comments or not. So all she's saying is enjoy the book, share it with your friends and family, share this video, of course, you guys. And the power in Hill's words can and will change your life. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I have so much more to say, but let's just jump right in, because we're going to talk about this, the first meeting with Andrew Carnegie. So from now on, we're just going to go ahead and listen to the audio. So just give me 1 second while I set that up for you guys. And here we go.
1. My first meeting with Andrew Carnegie. For more than a quarter of a century, my major purpose has been that of isolating and organizing into a philosophy of achievement the causes of both failure and success, with the object of being helpful to others who have neither the inclination nor the opportunity to engage in this form of research. My labor began in 1908 as the result of an interview that I had with the late Andrew Carnegie. I frankly told Mr. Carnegie that I wished to enter law school, and that I had conceived the idea of paying my way through school by interviewing successful men and women, finding out how they came by their success, and writing stories of my discoveries for magazines. At the end of our first visit, Mr. Carnegie asked whether or not I possessed enough courage to carry out a suggestion he wished to offer me. I replied that courage was about all I did have, and that I was prepared to do my best to carry out any suggestion he cared to offer. He then said, "Your idea of writing stories about men and women who are successful is commendable, as far as it goes, and I have no intention of trying to discourage you from carrying out your purpose. But I must tell you that if you wish to be of enduring service, not only to those now living, but to posterity as well, you can do so if you will take the time to organize all of the causes of failure, as well as all of the causes of success. There are millions of people in the world who have not the slightest conception of the causes of success and failure. The schools and colleges teach practically everything except the principles of individual achievement. They require young men and women to spend from 4 to 8 years acquiring abstract knowledge, but do not teach them what to do with this knowledge after they get it. The world is in need of a practical, understandable philosophy of achievement, organized from the factual knowledge gained from the experience of men and women in the great university of life. In the entire field of philosophy, I find nothing which even remotely resembles the sort of philosophy which I have in mind. We have few philosophers who are capable of teaching men and women the art of living. It seems to me that here is an opportunity which should challenge an ambitious young man of your type. But ambition alone is not enough for this task which I have suggested. The one who undertakes it must have courage and tenacity. The job will require at least 20 years of continuous effort, during which the one who undertakes it will have to earn his living from some other source, because this sort of research is never profitable at the outset, and generally those who have contributed to civilization through work of this nature have had to wait 100 years or so after their own funerals to receive recognition for their labor.
20 years of labor with no pay and possibly no recognition? How would you respond to this offer? As he discusses later, Hill accepted Carnegie's challenge, and with a letter of introduction from Carnegie, set about interviewing the giants of that time, including Theodore Roosevelt, Thomas Edison, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, Alexander Graham Bell, King Gillette, founder of the Gillette Safety Razor Company, and many others. His effort ultimately culminated in the publication of several books, including the 8-volume Law of Success and Think and Grow Rich, after more than 25 years of research. Think and Grow Rich is widely recognized as the seminal work in self-development, introducing essentially all the principles that continue to serve as the foundation for the teachings of the personal development gurus of today. As reflected in Hill's own description, the process of developing and publishing Think and Grow Rich was itself a study in the principles he revealed. It may be telling that the manuscript of Outwitting the Devil was written the year after Think and Grow Rich was published, since this work may reveal the frustration and revelation of Hill's other self, and how he conquered his frustrations and succeeded in using the very principles he described in Think and Grow Rich. Outwitting the Devil will reveal Hill's spiritual awakening and how each of us can learn from his encounter with the devil.
If you undertake this job, you should interview not only the few who have succeeded, but the many who have failed. You should carefully analyze many thousands of people who have been classified as failures. And I mean by the term failures, men and women who come to the closing chapter of life disappointed because they did not attain the goal which they had set their hearts upon achieving. As inconsistent as it may seem, you will learn more about how to succeed from the failures than you will from the so-called successes. They will teach you what not to do. Along toward the end of your labor, if you carry it through successfully, you will make a discovery which may be a great surprise to you. You will discover that the cause of success is not something separate and apart from the man, that it is a force so intangible in nature that the majority of men never recognize it, a force which might be properly called the other self. Noteworthy is the fact that this other self seldom exerts its influence or makes itself known, excepting at times of unusual emergency, when men are forced, through adversity and temporary defeat, to change their habits and to think their way out of difficulty. My experience has taught me that a man is never quite so near success as when that which he calls failure has overtaken him, for it is on occasions of this sort that he is forced to think. If he thinks accurately, and with persistence, he discovers that so-called failure usually is nothing more than a signal to rearm himself with a new plan or purpose. Most real failures are due to limitations which men set up in their own minds. If they had the courage to go one step further, they would discover their error.
Most real failures are due to limitations which men set up in their own minds. A negative mindset and self-doubt can be the primary obstacle to success. With the current economic downturn, far too many people who have all their life done everything right are now, for the first time, facing severe economic adversity. The greatest barrier to their recovery is their own fear and self-doubt instilled by their recent experience. Have you allowed the current economic downturn to overtake you? Have self-doubt and self-sabotage held you back from reaching your dreams? Are you your own worst enemy? In Think and Grow Rich, Hill told the story of R.U. Darby, a gold prospector. Frustrated when a rich vein of gold apparently ran out, Darby sold his gold claim for a pittance to the town junkman. The junkman brought in the right expert advisors and found that Darby would have rediscovered the vein had he moved his digging a mere 3 feet. Had Darby persevered, he would have made his fortune, but he gave up and abandoned his dreams when he was only 3 feet from gold. Rather than being crushed by his error, Darby learned from his experience and went on to build an insurance empire. Will you abandon your quest just before reaching great success when you are only 3 feet from gold? You can listen to how many of today's icons persevered through difficult situations in the book 3 Feet from Gold.
Begin life anew. Mr. Carnegie's speech reshaped my entire life and planted in my mind a burning purpose which has driven me ceaselessly, and this despite the fact that I had but a vague idea as to what he meant by the term other self. During my labor of research into the causes of failure and success, I have had the privilege of analyzing more than 25,000 men and women who were rated as failures, and over 500 who were classed as successful. Many years ago, I caught my first glimpse of that other self Mr. Carnegie had mentioned. The discovery came, as he said it would, as the result of two major turning points of my life, which constituted emergencies that forced me to think my way out of difficulties such as I had never before experienced. I wish it were possible to describe this discovery without the use of the personal pronoun, but this is impossible because it came through personal experiences from which it cannot be separated. To give you the complete picture, I shall have to go back to the first of these two major turning points and bring you up to the discovery, step by step. The research necessary for the accumulation of the data, from which the 17 principles of achievement and the 30 major causes of failure were organized, required years of labor. I had reached the false conclusion that my task of organizing a complete philosophy of personal achievement had been completed. Far from having been completed, my work had merely begun. I had erected the skeleton of a philosophy by organizing the 17 principles of achievement and the 30 major causes of failure, but that skeleton had to be covered with the flesh of application and experience. Moreover, it had to be given a soul through which it might inspire men and women to meet obstacles without going down under them. The soul, which had yet to be added, as I discovered later, became available only after my other self made its appearance, through two major turning points of my life. Resolving to turn my attention, and whatever talents I might possess, into monetary returns through business and professional channels, I decided to go into the profession of advertising, and I became the advertising manager of the LaSalle Extension University of Chicago. Everything went along beautifully for 1 year, at the end of which I was seized by a violent dislike for my job and resigned. I then entered the chain store business with the former president of the LaSalle Extension University and became the president of the Betsy Ross Candy Company. Unfortunate, or what seemed to me at the time to be unfortunate, disagreements with business associates disengaged me from that undertaking. The lure of advertising still was in my blood, and I tried again to give expression to it by organizing a school of advertising and salesmanship as a part of Bryant and Stratton Business College. The enterprise was sailing smoothly, and we were making money rapidly when the United States entered World War I. In response to an inner urge which no words can describe, I walked away from the school and entered the service of the United States government under President Woodrow Wilson's personal direction, leaving a perfectly sound business to disintegrate. On Armistice Day, 1918, I began the publication of the Golden Rule magazine. Despite the fact that I did not have a penny of capital, the magazine grew rapidly and soon gained a nationwide circulation of nearly 500,000, ending its first year's business with a profit of $3,156. Some years later, I learned from an experienced publisher that no man experienced in the publication and distribution of national magazines would think of starting such a magazine with less than $500,000 of capital.
For a proper perspective, $3,156 in 1918 would represent $45,000 today based on the Consumer Price Index average for each year compiled by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and $202,000 using the nominal GDP per capita tables. Not a bad profit for the first year in a magazine business when 80 to 90% of new titles fail, and even the successful ones take 3 to 5 years to become profitable.
The Golden Rule magazine and I were destined to part company. The more we succeeded, the more...
All right, so I wanted to go ahead and end it there, just to kind of not make the video too long because I know we're already in there. Let me just go ahead and remove this really quick. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We're going to continue this. So I'm going to do this daily so that way you can keep up with it. But I will be releasing them daily, and then you guys can continue to watch. Definitely leave your comments below what you guys thought. There's a lot of stuff just to kind of give you some insight that I found out when Napoleon Hill was initially writing the 16 Laws of Success, which you can't even really find in its entirety, because that book literally was the recipe for success. Apparently there was a smear campaign that was occurring at the time. And, I heard rumors that maybe it was like Henry Ford and people who did not want this kind of information out, basically forced him to rewrite the book to As We Know It Now, to Think and Grow Rich. And then the struggles just continue to occur. But this is also when he really started to develop and really start to use these principles that he's talking about, like the sixth sense, where he was able to tap in. If you guys are familiar, I mean, I mentioned her name before, like Esther Hicks or Abraham. Some people will call it channeling, where you're actually invoking another spirit, in a good way, nothing crazy or anything like that, but you're actually calling on your mastermind councils and things like that. And it's a very powerful, in-depth stuff that really kind of gets you into tapping into another level of meditating, but can be very life-changing. So he's going to continue on this. I'm going to continue the video in tomorrow's video, where you'll actually continue right out where we left off. It's important to know, and they do mention this, that they wanted to give you just a layout and understanding of, this is what he had to go through to get to this point. So anybody that's going through stuff right now, understand we're tapping in, we're looking at all these things, and these things are things that, sometimes we have to go through in order for us to really tap into our sixth sense and to our other self. The same thing with Esther Hicks and Abraham, when she found Abraham and how she was kind of going through things, but really started tapping in, that she started to discover her other self. So really profound stuff. I'm really excited to continue to share this with you guys. So until tomorrow, or the next day, whenever you guys are watching this, enjoy, and you guys make it a great day. Take care.